We're finding ourselves now in a place none of us ever expected. We're sitting at home. I think that in many ways, this takes us back to a time that's closer to that very first Christmas than we would ever imagine. Jesus is being born into a world that is uncertain and in tumult and in conflict with itself. We find Mary and Joseph looking for a place to stay. And when we hear that story, we might remember the story if we were children and our parents took us to church and they took us to Sunday school pageants. We remember the voice of a stern innkeeper, "There is no room in the inn." But the crazy thing about that story is that there weren't such things as Holiday Inns in Jesus' time. When it talks about there was no room in the inn, the words really suggest there was no room in the guest room of somebody's house. So somebody gave them the next best thing they had. Somebody gave them the room where their animals slept at night. Somebody gave them the feed trough for their donkey and their cow. Somebody gave them what they had. They got the next best thing. And maybe in these days, we're not getting what we thought, but we're getting the next best thing. We're getting our homes, we're getting our families on Zoom, we're getting our friends on phone calls, we're getting the hopes of something that we never thought of. We're getting this place in this time.
Well, if it isn't.
Hey, look who's here. It's Christmas, and I'm out here with my friend.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
It's Christmas time, and we're outside because we can't be inside. But you know something about outside.
You know, unfortunately, on any given night in the city of Fort Wayne and the surrounding areas, we have between 2,500 to 3,000 persons who are homeless. And unfortunately, many of those people, because they're struggling with mental illness or addiction, they choose to live outdoors. And so that's a tragedy.
You know, we interact with some of those folks here during the day, or, you know, and we could do that. Few of them actually sleep here on the grounds of the church, you know, because it's safe and it shelters a bit. But, it bothers us that we're outside of, we're outside. And we lose track of what that means to people who spend their whole lives outside.
And I think often, as we think about that, we believe that a lot of folks are outdoors by choice. But when you really consider the fact that there are some issues and there are some challenges that these people are facing internally, that it actually causes them to make decisions and choices by choosing to be outdoors.
We're all hopeful that everybody who's watching this is watching inside, especially on this holy day, that we're reminded of the fact that Jesus was outside.
There is so much parallel between the Christmas story as we know it and the plight of homelessness.
When we tell this story, we tell the story about, there was no place for them in the inn. And when we were little children, do you remember we had those Christmas pageants and, we all kind of wagged our finger at the innkeeper, but St. Luke doesn't wag his finger. I mean, he just says he's out in the world. It's almost as if we go inside, we miss him.
It was actually so natural for the innkeeper to do what he did. And you're absolutely correct. And so there he was, he found a place for him, and it wasn't on the inside, but it was on the outside, and yet that was a part of the tradition back then.
And then who comes to visit him? Other people who are on the outside. Right?
That is such a great insight because there were shepherds out in the fields, outside.
Who slept outside, right? I mean, Jesus comes to be accessible to people who are outside,
Yes.
you know.
And in fact, a lot of the folks who were the inside people who would know the truth and the prophecy, they were left out in the cold, if you will, and the real story was actually taking place in the cold, in reality, on the outside. And not only shepherds, but even there were angels that appeared.
Yeah. Outside. Do you think it was as cold that night as it is?
You know, I tell you, I don't think so. But it is so sad, though, that we tend to sanitize the story of Christmas, and we make it feel as if it is something that is done in cathedrals, it is something that is done in beautiful edifices, and we lose sight of the fact. And I got this from you, where you said it's amazing how the Christmas story attracted the very poor, and those individuals were on the outside.
In pre-COVID days, they sat outside here and were always amazed how many people were reticent to come inside. You know, how many people who walk by here, who walk by this space, even with the doors open, that sense that somehow we've, you know, people don't feel good coming in all the time. And, you know, and we're all like, well, it's a church, you know, or you should come into a church. And somehow we create this space where people don't always feel welcome.
I think we project, unfortunately, a sense that church happens inside, and that God is on the inside, and He doesn't care for you if you're on the outside. And what I love about you and some of the people here at Trinity is the fact that they go outside and even put a chair outside.
I mean, we're sitting out here when it wasn't quite so cold, and you know, but our people sit out here to just say hi to the world as it's walking by, to, you know, to give a greeting. And there is something deep inside of the story of Christmas that says that, you know, Jesus is sitting out there with you.
When you can look at somebody and can say, I see you, that gives them significance. And I believe what God did by having Jesus, the Son of God, born on the outside, He was saying to the shepherds, I see you. And I want you to experience the best that heaven has to offer.
Yeah. And we'd certainly hope on this night that our heart, all of our hearts, are moved to that point where we can say to the world, we see you.
Yes.
You know, we might be different.
Yeah.
We might be, you know, our lives might be different. Sometimes even the things we believe in are different. But in Jesus' name, I see you. We both know the interesting thing down here is that even though this is a little bit of a nexus of folks who might find homelessness, but there's no violence down here. There's no, you know.
I think people value just a place to lay their head, you know, and our community has so much resource that they take care of the things. So for us, it's really just, I just want to find a place to sleep. I want to find a place to lay my head. And please don't disturb me, you know, so.
And here is the place, if we take Him seriously, that we find Jesus. You know, when we take the story seriously, here's where we find Him. You know, where He promised, you know, outside, in the world, you know.
I love the fact too that God sends people, you know, to represent Him, you know.
You know, back in through here occasionally.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. Good. How are you tonight? Yeah. Thanks, you too. Peace be with you.
That wasn't staged. Oh, he's getting his things? Yeah. I was just checking to see if his things are there. Wow. Was that in the shot? Yeah, I think so. Because, wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
There are people in our community who feel excluded. They just don't feel part of our neighborhood. They don't feel part of our community. They don't feel like they belong. And what's interesting is that story repeats itself back in the biblical story. It actually repeats itself in the Christmas narrative. And we remember that Jesus, where he was born, was open to the shepherds, and that the first people who came to Jesus were the very ones who felt like outsiders, that the first ones that the Holy Family welcomed into their midst were people who felt unwelcome in other places. And in some ways, that's probably supposed to be a story that we are to hear and to remember as God's people. And maybe if there's anything good, it's that we've all been put outside this year. And so it's easy to bump into those people who have been left outside. And our need to remember that story, that as we go back inside someday, that we open our doors up to welcome those who have felt left outside.
We've been friends for, how long have we been friends now? Ages.
Man, it's been a while. It's
Yeah.
been a good while.
Yeah.
And a
yeah,
good friendship.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I hear about, and I hear people say, is, they don't feel welcome. And when they say it to me, they say, I don't feel welcome at church. And we always go, well, what do you mean? That's the same thing. What do you mean? What do you mean anybody can come to church? Well, yeah and no. That sense that people don't feel welcome, that we acted in ways that don't always let them feel this is for them. And I think when we read Jesus' story, people were saying that to him all the time. And his response was, let me come to your house. Let me come to where you're at. Let me come to be with you.
And there wasn't a manual, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a welcoming team when Jesus walked the earth.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of our churches today, there's a welcoming team that you have these things, okay, say hi to the person and, offer them some orange juice and offer them, and people still say, I don't feel welcome. So what is that truly about? Are they feeling something different that is outside of the regimental check boxes of us trying to welcome people? Are they feeling something in our hearts that says, hey, I appreciate those check boxes, but something is missing there? And again, those of us who have the ability to pull people in, we have to find out from those that feel excluded, hey, walk us through that. Tell us more about that so we can learn how to include you in the most appropriate and best way to make you not feel that way.
Sometimes down in the Oxford area or just other places we've been, I come like this, and so everybody knows what I do. It's always shocking that people who even say they don't go to church, but they want me to pray. They want me to pray for them, or they're hoping that somehow God hears them. In that that embodied sense that I want to be connected to more. And for each of us, we're that connection, right? I mean, we're that connection to something more for everybody, wherever they're at, don't you think?
I do, and I believe that wholeheartedly. When I drove to work every morning before the COVID pandemic, I called my mom in the mornings and she would pray with me on my way to work, and we would talk. And it's really me tapping into and using some of her faith, right? Using some of her hope, using some of her connection to God that sometimes I'm wondering if I even have one, and saying, Mom, can you help me with this? Can you send something up for me? And so when we've got community residents and neighbors and friends and families that are asking us, hey man, just pray for me, they do believe that we're that connection. We are that sense of hope, that ray of light that God sent us, and we got to capitalize on that. We really do.
Part of what this whole program is about is that we're not in our building, on this one of the sacred nights of the church year, when all of us, we spend our whole lives, I've spent my whole life in a church on this night, whole life in a church. And I'm not in there now. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but that sense that, maybe we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Out here with these people everywhere. That reminder that our life is out here, that it was always the purpose of God to toss us out of the building anyway, to get back into the world, to be neighbors.
Yeah. Go back out and walk.
Yeah, yes.
Go walk the talk. And for me, it's not only being out here, but it's also like for me and my family, we feel that this has brought us closer together, right? Being at home on a Sunday morning, watching something virtually, and I have the opportunity now to talk through it with my sons, right? Instead of the easy job of, the Sunday school teachers got them two dudes,
Yeah, and you put them back in the car and you drive home.
Absolutely. Hey, what'd you learn? Great. Genesis. Yeah, what is that? So now Daddy and Mommy are having family discussions around that story, and so it's I think what it's done for us is exactly what Jesus would design for the church. Hey, focus in on home and go out and implement, go out and execute, go out and help, go out and serve, come back home, build, go out and do that. With the church being kind of in the middle of that, helping strategically and helping with education of who Christ was. But I believe that it is the way you just said. I really do, man. And there's something awesome happening in our community as we're learning how to do things a little bit differently. I don't think it's bad. One thing I'll say is that throughout these months that we've all been different, right? That we've all been apart, that we've all been trying to figure it out. I think a switch in my head finally clicked. I'm a late bloomer. And throughout all these months that we were at home and working and trying our best to figure it out, I spent that time saying, okay, we'll go back to normal any day now, next week, and just waiting, right? And not really saying, okay, we're here. How do I dive in deeper? And finally, when that switch went off, that, hey, we're going to be here for a while, man. Make the best of it. That's when life truly changed for the better for us,
Yeah, absolutely. And part of being out here is saying, we're going to make the best out of this.
Absolutely.
We're making the best with the people who are watching, our community, to say, how do we embrace it? Embrace the crazy, embrace the different, and just say, God stuck us here. God put us out here because we weren't going to do it for ourselves.
No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's true, man.
If I'm out in the world, I keep my head down and I, walk forward and look down, don't look anybody in the eye. Because if I look you in the eye, you might come up and talk to me. You might, and if you talk to me, you might ask me for something. But that sense of, if I'm here, well, I could always say no. But I can't give you that. There is actually a Bible story like that. People ask Jesus' disciples for something, and I can't give you that, but I can give you this. I can't, I might not have a buck for you, but I can walk down the street with you.
And that also reminds me of Jesus asking, hey, what do you need? The blind man, hey, what would you like me to do for you, essentially? And I mean, you're bringing up a lot of questions, and even me, man. What if all of us, instead of, hey, I don't want you to ask me for anything, which is so traditional and typical of us. What if we said, look, I want you to tell me what you need. Ask me, I want to give it to you. Or maybe don't even ask me, hey, you got a need, I would love to help you. I would love to help you. How do we, not only in this season, but in this life of ours, how do we create a lifestyle of truly including people, right? With our heads, with our hearts and our hands and our actions. How do we truly include those individuals who feel excluded? It's something that we all got to work on it, but me, myself, it's really a place that I strive to do better in, man, because it's true.
There's this great song that I remember from my childhood. It was sung every year in the church that I grew up on Christmas Eve, "O Holy Night." And it was this piece that was always sung at the very end of the Christmas liturgy. And in the first verse, the author said these words, "Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth." And isn't that what we're all wanting? That our souls would feel their worth, that we would know our value, that we would know that we matter to God, that we matter in this world, that we matter in this place. That the story of Christmas is about not just the packages, not just the gift or even the gift of Jesus, but that we know our worth, that we're valuable to God, that we're valuable in this world, in this place. One of the blessings to be in this great parish church is that we are located almost perfectly in the center of our city. And being where we are, when we open our doors, it's fascinating as to who can come in. It's fascinating to see those who have a lot be able to rub up shoulders against those who called the street their home, those who carried everything that they had on their backs. And really, isn't that a symbol of what we see happening in our nativity scenes? We see those shepherds who have nothing other than sheep, to those wise men who come from afar, who bring extravagant gifts. And maybe in this year, we can imagine not our churches full, but our world full with the presence of Jesus wherever we find ourselves. As Jesus was outside in the world, as Jesus was outside in that manger where people could find him, maybe this year we're outside of a place like a church, but into the places where those who have felt excluded can find us. Those who are outside and don't have a place to sleep could find us. Maybe in the places where even people who don't know the name of our Lord Jesus could find us, and we would be able to tell them of how much God loves them. In this holy night, everybody here at Trinity wishes you a Merry Christmas. Here in this holy night, we wish you all of God's blessings in the year that lies ahead of us. In this holy night, we wish you God's peace and God's love and God's grace wherever you find yourself. Please know that Jesus is present with you. Jesus, who finds himself in the manger in Bethlehem, finds himself tonight in your home, in your apartment, in your place where you sleep, knowing that you are not forgotten, knowing that you are precious to him.